Okay, is it better now? So it seems like there's something wrong with my Wi-Fi this morning.
Okay.
Called the growzone.global. And if you're looking to enhance your lifelong learning abilities, then join this platform. It's for free. We have a lot of great content here to learn about lessons from COVID in China. We have the COVID coaches with lots of great advice. We have lots of positivity, motivational topics here. So you can join the growzone.global platform. Good. And you know our book already if you need lots of motivation. Also, if you love what we're doing, why not donate to the 1 Million Tree Project? And last but not least, this is our lineup for this month. You know, Mondays are in English, Wednesdays are in Chinese. And now I'm going to hand it over to our amazing Barak. And then after the 20-minute session, you can ask him lots of questions. Let me start sharing for you. Okay, please unmute yourself. Oh yeah, you already unmuted. Great. You can see my screen now. Okay, the stage is yours. Thanks for being with us.
And make sure this time no black swan incident happens. All right. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my academic webinar. All right, and I'm pleased to see that most of you joined my academic webinar online. All right, and I hope that everybody staying safe and secure and optimistic in the middle of face lockdown and in the middle of Omicron variant. So today's topic is about philosophical perspectives on Platonism and Confucianism. And I want to see that whether and how they are applicable to international human development issues in today's world, okay? And I want to know that after this webinar, you're going to have the ideas that what are they, how do we inherit them, and how do we view the world differently? And I hope that these sort of ideas could be helpful to your life, helpful to your thinking mode, and it could be helpful to your probably research in some areas. Okay, and on the first slide, ladies and gentlemen, you're going to see some of the basic information about my email, my alma mater, and my employment position. So, so that's I'm going to say that's part of my information. And I want to know, I want to make sure that some of the points I want to make. The following presentations, the following academic presentations will represent my own research, my own academic research for academic purpose only. It's not about political games and not about business claims, all right? So I just analyze things philosophically and analytically and academically. So just be aware of that. Okay, Jenny, next slide, please. Thank you. All right, so today I'm going to start with 4 points about my presentation. First, I'm going to show that my masterpieces, okay, my academic publications. So if you're interested, you're going to see a list of my publications. Next, I'm going to show you how do we do position of Platonism and Confucianism, which is far away from our I would say our life and our era, but some of the philosophical ideas remain thought-provoking and applicable. And also, I'm going to take some of the analysis a little bit further, okay? And then I would make some concluding remarks about some of the ideas which probably beneficial to your problem solving, to your thinking mode, to your your underlining logic that are important to you. Okay, Penny, next slide, please. Now, I'm going to start with my academic publications. So you're going to see a list of my publications from international journals. So if you're curious and if you're interested in reading these sort of papers, academic full papers, I'll be delighted to share with some of you, or you're going to read it online. Or here is normally 6 to 7 high quality papers. All right, it's about the philosophy, inter-civilisational studies, and it's about international development and international human development issues. Okay, next slide, please. So let's come to the point right away. So what is our day when it comes to School of Platonism and School of Confucianism? Before we position or define these kind of questions, okay, define these terminology, probably we need to think about certain questions in much the same ways that before we do something, we need to think about a certain question, or we are encouraged to think about the hypothetical deep questions. So I'm going to analyze that through 3 kinds of questions. Number 1, what part of the philosophical ideas can be grasped, okay, in today's world? For example, what sort of ideas from Plato, what some ideas from Confucius, and also what some idea from other comparable philosophers could be understood, okay, could be useful in today's world. Second, some people say, philosophy is a little bit abstract, all right, and probably is relevant to our life. Is that the case? Think about that. Why are those philosophical concepts remain, okay, are still theoretically important, inspirational, thought-provoking in some ways, okay, from some aspects? I'm going to show you that there are some huge, phenomenal changes that have been taking place around the world, okay, in the 21st century. We are living in a world, okay, we are living in the VUCA world that is far different from the world that the people live in the 20th century, in the 19th century. And I'm going to show you why that happens. Lastly, I'm going to show you some of my academic ideas about how we can abstractly inherit some of the thoughts in today's world, in today's VUCA world. All right. What I mean refer to abstractly inherit, which means that we do not directly copy, duplicate, Xerox those some of ideas directly of their historical context, of their historical moments, of their historical circumstances. Instead, we reformulate, internalize, and internalize some of their ideas in some of the analogous situations or at some of the analogous comparable moments that we think we sort of ideas and solution could be applied, even if we need experimentation. Okay, so these are the 3 slides I wanted to say. Okay, so Jenny, next slide, please. Now, let's see what sort of ideas could be grasped, all right, or what's the feature of Confucianism and Platonism. I'm not going to read line by line, all right, but I just want to show you that the circumstances, the historical context are different between Platonism and Confucianism. One's from Greek era, one is from classical Chinese period or ancient Chinese period, especially during the spring and autumn periods and warring state period. Okay, it's called hundreds of school of hundred thoughts that emerged at that historical moment. And some of the main ideas I want to mention is that when it comes to Platonism, out of cave allegory is important. How do we going to see the outside world without being restricted or without being staying in a comfort zone, in a limited zone, all right? And when it comes to Confucianism, how do we seek harmony without homogeneity, okay? And my apology for my typo misspelling, okay, for homogeneity. And also, how do we seek homogeneity despite heterogeneity in civilization, in people, and in state actors? And later on, I'm going to show you how we do that and why they are important. And also the archive, I want to make it a point, and I hope most of you are going to read that, is about that is republic, okay? And some of the philosophers may say, well, the success of the philosopher and some of the philosophical thinkers or intellectual thinkers do some of the footnotes for the republic. Also, with some of the contents about, you can see some of the deepening discussion among Thrasymachus, okay, Glaucon, and some Socrates and other comparable interlocutors, which will discuss some of the terminology which remain important and consequential to our lives. And also for analysts of Confucius, there are some of the discussions and dialogue conversations which are also meaningful and somewhat important. So if we combine both of them, the power of ideas and philosophy will be huge. So let's see what will happen. Okay, Jenny, next slide, please. Okay, so sometimes Barak, I would say why we need to look at some of philosophical ideas. So some people will say, philosophy may be abstract, that's too deep. I cannot see, for example, any functionality or pragmatics or certain ideas could be feasible. All right, why do we look at philosophy? Is that the case? I'm going to show you that from at a macro level and micro level. When it comes to macro level, what kind of change happens? Okay, I'm going to show you that the great changes happens in global world structure. Okay, what are they? Ukraine, Russia, geopolitical dilemma. All right, and although this is sort of a political phenomenon, but if we look at it at a philosophical level, we can see that is that probably similar to balancing of power during Holy Roman Empire period or Roman Republic period? Is that similar to the balancing power in the European continents? All right, it is how whether it is likely for the I'm going to say the relevant parties, the relevant state actors to think about these things beyond the cave, beyond the limits. All right, U.S.-China power transition and discourse shift. All right, we're going to see that rebalancing of powers, rebalancing of the shift, the discourse, okay, between these largest economic powers in the 21st century. And we see that there are some areas they are shared, some areas they are cooperative, some areas are collaborative, but some areas they are competitive. So how do we think about that? Through Platonism and Confucianism. Economic recovery remains slow. All right, that whether some of the economic development from high points and now reduced to a little bit lower point, okay, from probably from the GDP from 7% to 5%. Even in some regions, it occurs the negative economic development. Why it happens, okay? And technological competition, we see that 5G, 6G, artificial intelligence, okay, that occurs. So in the future, in the next decades, all right, probably nuclear, clean energy automobiles will be more powerful than the vehicles of oil and natural gas. All right, so why this sort of the technological competition, all right, among the companies, among enterprises, and even among individuals, because we are living in a world today which is industrial 4.0. Industrial 4.0. No longer do we live in the era of agricultural industrialization or some eras. We're living in a world of industrial 4.0. And also climate change. All right, why, how do we reduce carbon emission? Okay, why today's world is that the carbon emission is still high? How do we reduce that? According to Paris Climate Accord, okay, every individual, every state actor reduce that to below 2%, okay, or even 1.5%, or even to the minimum. COVID-19 pandemic, why does it occur? How do we think about that philosophically in avoidance of further global public health crises, all right, when it comes to this sheer global enemy? And some of the global development imbalance in some areas. Why in that states the economic growth is higher? Why in that area the economic growth is slow? Why some people remain living in poverty? Why some of the areas that people could lift out of poverty? So these are all sort of questions we gotta think about, because we have the solemn obligations to resolve these problems, not at a pragmatic level, but at theoretical, philosophical level. And also, some people say, Barack, how is relevant to our life? I'm going to show you. When it comes to career development for yourself in the VUCA world, okay, you may face some challenges, ups and downs, all right, and say, well, I face challenges, how to solve that? Thanks to philosophy and thanks to both Platonism and Confucianism. How do you solve the problem with interpersonal communication or interpersonal relationship with different people? Thanks to Platonism and Confucianism. And we see something common ground despite difference, all right? Or we identify difference through some shared people, okay? Or how do we think about things beyond our limits in a out of cave mentality, all right? That's also about the issue of problem solving and how do we make sure that we do something a little bit perfect, okay? A little bit perfect. So that's sort of the thing I would like to share with you. Okay, Jenny, next slide, please. Now I'll discuss what it is, why is that important? Now let me show you how we can do that. So I'm going to analyze this through 3 levels. Okay, first, international development fields. Okay, some people find that in some developing markets, or even in some of the developed markets or state actors, people living in poverty. All right, why is that happens? So thanks to Platonism and Confucianism, we need to think about that in a out of Kate way. We probably imagine, all right, or expect a kind of a philosopher king, a professional executive, and a leader who could manage these sort of issues, conduct structural reform. All right, we need to seek the nature of that problem, not just reduce poverty itself. COVID-19 pandemic, how do we think about things beyond our limits and seeking cooperation, okay, among different nations, among different state actors, and listen to different doctors, listen to constructive advice of doctors, okay, climate change, cooperation instead of narrow self-interest, okay, think about that beyond our mental limits, all right, make sure that we reduce carbon emission into 2.2%, even 1.5%, even lower, okay, technological competition, okay, think about that beyond our mental limits, all right, instead of pursuing zero-sum games, instead we pursue win-win cooperation, okay, let us transfer to the potential challenges of artificial intelligence into the opportunities of the advantageous positions or advantageous parts. Okay, so second, international relations field. Okay, just the two important phenomena: Ukraine-Russia geopolitical dilemma. If some of the both sides, okay, I'm not making some claims, but I just analyzed that at a philosophical level. So if both sides, all right, think about that beyond that limits in some ways, as okay, in some terms, they could seek some of a common ground, see some of the errors that could be shared, and then negotiations, diplomatic negotiations occurred. All right, probably it could some of the events that occur in the Renaissance period, okay, or during some of the era where state compete each other. There's some of the era we're gonna share, okay. U.S.-China complicated dilemma. Okay, how to solve that? We see that, as I indicated, that there are some error to be collaborative, shared, okay, but some error competitive or even worsening, maybe confrontational. But how do we think about that? Through the philosophical, Platonic, and Confucianism perspective. Okay, seek certain common grounds, find some areas that we share, find some area where these two sides can cooperate in education, trade, investment, poverty reduction, COVID-19 pandemic that we need to combat, all right? And the agricultural production, nobody's saying, okay, I don't want food, I don't want the agriculture. So these kind of error that they gotta cooperate, okay? Some of the error may be competitive, probably during the in an era of technology or some of the eras, okay? But these sort of things that I would say philosophies and the Platonism and Confucianism and some of the relevant philosophy could be helpful in reformulating and draft certain ideas. And also another point is, how is that relevant to your individual development? Okay, for example, you faced a problem with individual development in Korea. Okay, your employment in the VUCA world. Okay, normally probably you are unemployed, for example, and you see that I couldn't find a job. What happened? Okay, think about that philosophically, which means that what kind of points have you confront, or what problems have you confront? Okay, what kind of advantages and disadvantages that you have. Okay, are you suitable for this position? If you are not suitable for this position, are you suitable for another position? So these sort of things, these sort of ideas could be helpful for our success, for accomplishments, and could be helpful for our goals, because these are philosophical strategy. They're grand strategy, which will be always or oftentimes helpful, regardless of failure, success, accomplishments, or some other challenges. All right. So, Jenny, next slide, please. Now, for some reasons, let me make concluding remarks. And I'm not going to read these things, ideas line by line, but I will just a point I want to make. One, they are guidelines instead of pragmatic instructions, which means we do not, or we are not encouraged to Xerox those sort of ideas directly and say, are these ideas, are these philosophical points useful? No, that's not what I mean. What I'm referring to do that these sort of ideas may be thought-provoking and help you to come up with some of the models and the sort of pragmatic solutions based on those helpful ideas. And second, why I want to share the idea of both Platonism and Confucianism, because in today's world, neither the ideas from the Occidental continent nor the ideas from Oriental continent alone can solve the global challenges and global issues. Instead, both of them combined could be an alternative theoretical breakthrough to international studies and to the international relation theory, if both of them combine organically. All right. And next thing I want to make is that some people say, I also oftentimes face the challenges and problems, but I would say solutions and strategies oftentimes outweigh the problem. Okay. As long as you identify the problems, identify some of the questions, and you think about that philosophically for a little bit a period, well, you're going to think, I come up with some of the ideas. So strategy, solutions, in some cases, okay, in some cases will outweigh the underlying challenges, so long as you think about that at the depths of your mind. So you do not have to think about whether it is successful or it may still cause failure. No, but thinking philosophy or thinking inter-philosophical perspective will be beneficial, will be conducive to the process, the modeling of how you think about it. Without that thinking, it's scarcely possible for you to solve the problem. Okay, I would say if you think about that, probably the things still gonna be filled, but without that thinking, it's scarcely possible for you to resolve those challenges. So anyway, that's part of my presentation that I would like to share with you. And now it's a Q&A session, and I welcome your welcome your in-depth academic kind of arguments, disagreements, and some of the hypothetical questions. And also, pray stay safe and optimistic in the middle of phase lockdown. Thanks so much, dear audience.
Thank you very much, dear Barrick. And we already have a few very good questions here in the chat. Let me start with the first one from Jimmy. So Jimmy was asking, one second. So wait, where's my chat now? Just disappeared. So Jimmy was asking, why is there a difference and features to each of them? What then? I think this was to the slide. Let me show it again. I think it was, if I'm not mistaken, I think his question was to that slide. Why is there a difference and features to each of them? What then? I don't know if you get the question.
So Jimmy, so my initial thoughts to your responding to your question would be that I would like to say these two things, or these two sort of philosophical ideas, I'm not saying different, but they are heteronymous, okay? They are comparable, which probably means, when it comes to philosophical, when it comes to Platonic ideas, we think about that, okay, beyond our limits, out of the comfort zone, okay? What the comfort zone is just like, or analogous to a crave, or that Plato made in the book Republic, all right? And also for Confucianism, we probably thinking about, okay, how do we seek something shared, okay, something in common, despite differences, despite disparity we may define. So what I'm saying is that they are heteronymous, and they are comparable, they are reciprocal, they're not absolutely different. So I want to make it clear. All right.
Then, Sebastian, I'll take you soon. Jimmy has two other questions. The next one is, stability is the priority for today's China. And is there a root in our Confucian theory?
Okay, so, well, stability as a priority for today's China. Is there a root in our Confucian theory? Okay, so my initial philosophical academic ideas to you, Jimmy, is that probably we could say stability may be the prerequisite to long-term development, okay? But want to make sure that stability is not equivalent to inertia, is not equivalent to static. Stability means that we keep in a peaceful situation, all right, and we make sure that everybody, most of the people, could be happy with their work, with their life, and based on such constructive stability, and the long-term development would happen later on. So is there any root in our Confucian theory? Okay, I'm going to say, if you read the book of the Doctrine of Mings, if you read the book about some of the books that are relevant to Confucianism, you're going to find that the legalism, all right, with Han Fei or Shenyang, probably more linear to stability, more than Confucian. So that's my initial thoughts to you.
Jimmy, I'll get back to your last question in a second. Let's quickly take Sebastian, and then we go back to you. Sebastian, you can unmute yourself.
Here you go. Hey, Barak, thank you for sharing with us this morning. If you were asked to name two differences between Plato and Confucius, what would you say?
Would you like to elaborate?
I'm interested to hear you describe two key differences between Plato and Confucius school of thoughts, for want of a better term. What would be the two that come to your mind?
Okay, so let me reframe the question. So you would say, if I want to give the two different points between Confucianism and Platonism, what would be that? Is that the case?
Key differences, not just points.
Key differences.
Yeah.
Okay.
Tell me the difference, assuming I know nothing of the two schools of thought. And
okay,
now I'm
that's
asking you,
sort of
please tell
all
me
right,
two
got it. Okay,
differences. What would they be?
I'm
Thank
gonna
you.
analyze. I want to share with you that from the perspective of historical context and the perspective of the ideas within them. Okay, so from historical context, all right, the the school of Platonism occurs in Roman Republic or in the ancient Greek period, where technological, scientific, the breakthrough, okay, discovery occurred. Okay, so at that moment, philosophy were popular. The philosophies were popular in the middle of ancient Greek periods. On the other hand, when it comes to School of Confucianism, I would like to say that's sort of an era of spring and autumn periods. Scientific and philosophical breakthrough were not huge. Okay, I'm just saying there's the clash of ideas, but scientific, empirical, the philosophical discovery were not widespread during the spring and autumn period. So these are sort of the difference. Another kind of difference, I would say, School of Platonism is about empirical analysis. It's about dialectic, and it's about dialectics, empirical analysis, and it's about the discovery through the relation between human and the heaven, okay, between the objects and heaven. But when it comes to School of Confucianism, it's probably more about people-to-people relationship. So these are the key differences that I would like to share with you from the historical context and the internal feature of their ideas.
Okay, thanks for that. Thank you.
We have two more questions in the chat. And Jimmy was asking, what's the use of theory if we can understand without?
What is the use of theory if we can understand without? So a little bit, I feel a little bit perplexed about such sort of a question because they're a little bit too broad. Okay. So the theory, what do you refer to theory? Okay, but what I'm saying that without theory, it's scarcely for you to come up with grand strategy and some grand ideas and underlining logic in front of challenges, in front of problems. Probably you just fix these problems, but what if another comparable problems occur? Would you fix it in the same way? Probably different. We gotta have a theoretical framework about that. So if we have a theoretical philosophical framework, then we gotta address some of the different challenges, diverse challenges at the different moments. Okay, or we have the means to have that. So there's a slogan say that punches has the means to resist. Okay, so I hope that my response to you will be useful.
Yeah.
Jimmy.
Yes. Yes. Thank you very much. What I mean is, relate to next question raised by Cliff as well, is how does those philosophical perspectives, has certain implication or influence on today's world, and why does China and the Western take different route address today's world issues in terms of the subjects you mentioned about the geopolitics, climate changes, COVID-19, or any other, conflicts or issues around the world.
Okay, so my brief academic response to you, which is that owing to, okay, due to the difference in historical context, the different, the socio-economic development trajectory, the difference in technological development, all right, and the difference in historical development, their ideas emerge becomes different. If the philosophical ideas are different, okay, the solution to the problems will tend to be different. Okay, so that's the linear logic that we're gonna do if we do deduct analysis from grand theory into specific case. We see that trace the epistemology. Okay, we see that typology of the origins of these philosophy, and then we'll see that why it occurs, why some of different solutions occur. It is because of the difference in historical development, difference in socio-economic development, difference in the historical context, all right, and the also in different institutions that we consider and discover.
Last question, and we will close the call because Barrick is in all of the WeChat groups as well. Cliff was asking, is not seeking the truth just a function of political perspectives in today's world? How does philosophical perspective address this? I'm not sure if you still want to add something. Yes?
Okay, so Cliff, thank you for your question. Well, if I'm not mistaken in understanding your questions, that how the philosophy is useful and functional to address some of the political issues. If that is the nature of the question, I'm going to say, number one, I'm not making any, okay, I'm not making any political claims or the political arguments from somebody else. I'm just making philosophical academic arguments. Second, those sort of philosophical ideas cannot be applied or implemented directly in certain concrete text. Instead, these sort of political philosophical thoughts should be reformulated and in a some of the context which may be comparable and analogous. Let me give an example. Machiavelli's The Prince or The Discourse, if you read. Okay, some of the examples that Machiavelli make in Roman Empire, okay, or Roman Republic, or some of the competition among things, all right, but are these things remain applicable or comparable to today's world? Questionable, okay, controversial. We need to look at that differently. And also, for example, when it comes to Aristotle, Cicero, okay, they make some of the academic philosophical arguments over political science. Okay, the leaders or the rulers, the prince should be benevolent, the fall of meritocracy or try to be nice. But Machiavelli doubts that, all right, through some of a different context. Why? Because Machiavelli makes some of the cases, okay, in his works, okay, but the context could not be copied directly, okay. And also, some people say that, well, there's some of the words that are from Machiavelli, some of the words from the Confucius, some of the words from Plato. Okay, let's implement it directly. That probably will be counterproductive or will cause the side effects if we do not reformulate them, and it may cause the unanticipated or even certain issues or that we do not anticipate. So that's sort of the things I want to say, that philosophy is just a guideline, okay, abstract guideline, not the pragmatic instructions. The pragmatic instructions could be a result of discussion, negotiation, collaborative cooperation. But this sort of action comes from the grand strategy, the ideas, and thanks to the help of philosophies, all right, from the Occidental continent and Oriental continent. Yes.
Wow, we had so many questions today to our amazing fellow Barrick. Thank you so much for your time. Trust me, guys, we tried to schedule Barrick since last year, but normally at that time he has to give lectures to other students. So I was lucky that we finally had you here at Monday Morning Motivation. If you want to connect with Barrick, he is in all of our WeChat groups. And also, last but not least, if you're not in our WeChat groups yet, just scan the QR code and not QR code, add me on WeChat, and I'm happy to add you. And I want to wish you a beautiful Monday, everybody. Stay well wherever you are. And thank you again for your time, Barrick. Take care, everybody.
And also, if you have a question, audience, please connect with me through WeChat, and I give you some response, academic response in private. And I'm expecting some of academic cooperation if you they have. All right. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thanks, Barry. Good on you, mate.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Okay.
Bye, guys. Maybelline, Ola G, Truyen, Steven, Steve Wonder,
See you next time.
See you next time, Sebastian. Greetings to Australia. Cliff to Beijing. Gang, good to see you too. Better, Bill, Garrett, iPhone, Lan Lan, nice to see you again. Lucia, Mary, and everybody else. Thanks for joining. Tina, take care.